reopen. And whether you're open already or you're getting ready to, a lot of us are practicing putting on our PPE, or you've already been in the practice and you're wearing it. We've got our N95s. Some of you have, level 1s, 2s, or 3s to put over it. We've got our face shields, we've got our goggles, we've got our gowns, we've got our gloves. We are covered. And that's amazing, right? Well, I've been getting the phone calls and I've been seeing the post. It's hot. I mean, like boiling hot, and it's summertime. So it's hard to be wearing all this PPE. But we're not going to complain about it, right? Well, in this video, we're going to help you be able to complain, but complain with a little bit of perspective. At the Dental MEP, we use science to teach people skills to you. Do not forget to subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to hit the bell so you never miss out.
We have all done it before, whether it's complaining about our bosses or our partner's annoying habits, the commute to work, the commute home, the weather, whatever it may be, we have all complained. It's one of those things we do like breathing, although hopefully not as often. Complaining is one of those things where we do it, but we want to make sure that we're not creating a negative environment, catastrophizing, or making it to where our peers don't want to be around us. But there are some pros to complaining.
Yeah, we also want to make sure that we're not, holding it all in too. That's a big thing. Is a lot of people walk around and say, I'm not a complainer, I don't want to complain. But there are benefits to it. Like Chastity said, science has proven that it's helpful to complain because it helps to build relationships. If you can share your emotions and share your feelings and get those out in a creative space in a way that you can be productive, then that helps build relationships and builds teams. And we want to make sure that we're doing that right now, especially.
Yeah, and during this time, I think that we can all agree that life's not perfect. There is a lot that is going on that is going to create stress and frustrations. And we don't want to pretend by any means that everything is going great in the world. We're not telling you to go out into your garden and say, there's no weeds, and then everything's going to be fine. Because there are challenges, but we want to make sure that we're being productive in the way that we complain. So we're not going into the practice and facing the same exact issues the next day after we've just vented, got everything off of our chest, but didn't find any solutions.
And this takes effort because our brains are hardwired to go right to blame, right? So if I were to spill something, I'm going to figure out who to blame for this. Maybe I'm going to blame the kids because they kept me up way too late last night. And then I'm going to complain to Chastity and tell her the kids kept me up late last night. So then I spilled my coffee all over the place. And that's why I was late today. It's just easier to throw out blame than it would be to look inwardly and figure out, okay, what am I feeling right now? What would be a productive way to have a conversation about the way that I'm feeling? Because I do want to have a conversation about it. So there's a right way to complain. Let's give you some tips and tricks to make sure that you know how to complain with a little bit of perspective.
Having ground rules for complaining in the practice is important. Like we said, we don't want to say you can't complain because that's not realistic. And when we don't complain, we're not getting things out there that are going to find solutions. The first thing we want to do is make sure that we know what the intention is behind our complaining. If we just need to vent because it is hot and we really have no solutions to changing what it is that we're doing and reducing the temperature, then just let the person know that you're talking to, I just need to vent for a second. There's nothing that I need you to do. Me and Christina have the code word of like pants on fire. So if she calls me up and says pants on fire, I know that she is going to go off about something that frustrated her that day, and that's going to be it. I don't have to come up with a solution for her. But on the flip side, knowing that if there is going to be a solution, that you're also going in with the intent of having a solution or coming up with creative ideas with the person that you're venting to. We'll give you a good layout of a rule, a 1-3-1 rule that you can use when you're coming up with solutions. The second rule, the ground rule for complaining, is to make sure that we're not blaming or shaming others. As Christina said, this is something that is so easy to do. We are hardwired for doing it, and we don't tend to realize that it's something that we even do. So those are the two ground rules. Make sure that you're clear with your intentions and no blaming or shaming. We want to make sure that we're staying productive.
What does complaining look like right now in the practice? Let's go back to that example we had in the beginning. We've got all this incredible PPE on and it is hot. If someone were to complain unproductively about this right now, it might look something like, ugh, this PPE is so ridiculous. It is way too hot. I'm getting dehydrated. I can't even take the time to drink water. This is unsafe. This is unsafe working conditions, and you should have never asked me to come back to work yet. That's not healthy and productive. However, when we're frustrated, we are naturally going to look for someone or something to blame. It's not always a person, it could be the PPE itself. But just complaining in that way is not productive and doesn't help in any way. So, we're going to give you some insight on how you can productively complain in a situation such as this.
All right, so we're going to run through a few examples of what this is going to look like. So the first thing, if we're not just venting, if we're not just going in to blow off steam and find blame, if we're going to complain with perspective, let's start with what that looks like. So complaining with perspective about being hot and all of this PPE would look more like.
It would look more like something along the lines of, I know that I chose to come back to work and I have to wear all of this PPE, but I could have never estimated that I was going to be this hot, and it seriously is really uncomfortable.
So that works because you're not blaming anybody. It's just acknowledging, like, yeah, this sucks. Like, it's not something that we're used to doing. We're not used to working with the N95s and the additional PPE factors and the additional restrictions. So it just sucks.
And
we're not looking for a solution.
Yeah, and you throw in your own perspective of saying, like, I know that I chose this, because that's the part that we forgot before, right? Is I'm just throwing out blame.
Yep.
So even if I just want to vent, there's no solution for Chastity to give to me. I'm just saying that I'm hot, and I want to do it in a way that's saying, like, I chose this, I understand. It's just that I didn't know that it was going to be this hot. Like, there's nothing that you could have done to prepare yourself for this because you've never been through it before. And that is okay to complain with perspective.
And then if we are looking for a solution, which a lot of times in the practice, things that we are frustrated about also hold solutions. But in an unhealthy way, we tend to vent about them. And then when the emotions are released, we feel a lot better. We go on with our day, but then it's going to happen again. So if we can eliminate it from happening again, what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to complain with perspective and have a solution-oriented approach to that. So that's where we're talking about that 1-3-1 rule. So 1 is going to be identifying the challenge. 3 is 3 potential solutions that you could come up with. And then 1, what is your recommendation going to be? And either person can come up with these. So if Christina was to come to complain with perspective, I could be on the lookout for, okay, what would your potential solutions be for this, and prompt it. Or she could come to me and already have that ready, knowing that this is a frustration that's going to happen every single day. So what would the 1-3-1s be?
So we use that exact example that we just said. If I'm coming to you to complain and use the 1-3-1, I would say something like, Chastity, I really underestimated how hot I was going to be in all of this PPE. And I know that I have to wear it for my protection, and I chose to come back to work, and I want to be here, but I don't think that I'm going to be able to do this for a long time. Do you think that we could look into maybe some thinner gowns that, still have the right amount of protection, or an internal fan? I've heard a lot of people are using those. Or maybe I can wear like lighter scrubs underneath, and that might be okay with you.
That's going to make a huge difference. So we are all going through a really stressful time, and we have different things that we're focused on in the practice. It's hard to come up for solutions for everything. So if you imagine everybody in your household coming to you with a problem in one day, and you having to come up with all the solutions, you would go crazy. So if in the team you can come to that person that you're complaining with perspective to and come with those solutions, it's going to make a huge difference. It's so much easier to say, yeah, that sounds like a reasonable solution. And you may not even share all 3 of what the potential solutions were. You might just share that last one recommendation that you have, and that's okay. If that's one that's not accepted by whomever it is that you're trying to work with, know that you have 2 others to fall back on. But making sure that you're approaching it with having those potential solutions.
And like we said, science has proven that this helps to build teams. We want to be able to connect with each other and have the conversations that are necessary. What we don't want is we don't want to hold it in and then go and let everything out on like your social media network or just to your friends or anything like that. And we've been seeing a lot of that. Conversations are happening in the practice. Somebody has a complaint, but they wait to do it in a place where they feel safe. Now more than ever, try to create that within your practice. And so if you haven't had open communication before, following the 1-3-1 rule and doing it with perspective is a safe way. Really practice it at home, practice it with a friend. You can practice it with social media, but then take that back to the practice so that you can approach it from your own perspective without creating any blame on them and be solution based.
Now, whether you are the person that is complaining with perspective in the practice, or maybe you have a team member that's complaining a lot and things aren't happening and you're getting frustrated with the complaints,
Yeah.
try to apply these rules. So, listen, what is the problem that they're really consistently having? Make sure that you encourage them. If you could come up with a solution,
Yes.
or if you thought that there was a solution, what would that be? What would it look like? What could we do to get around this in the future? And challenge them to have that thought process, to think outside of the box, because especially during stressful times, we tend to get tunnel vision, we get frustrated, and focused, and that creative thinking tends to go out of the window. So if we can encourage people to have that perspective, it's going to help the whole team entirely.
Now share your 131 with us. Do you have a challenge in the practice that you've heard a lot of people are going through that maybe you can help? Do you have 3 solutions or a solution that you have found that has been really helpful? We've seen a lot of creative solutions out there, and I would love to hear what yours is. Leave us a comment and don't forget to like this video and never forget to subscribe to the Dental MVP.